title when Spielberg was putting his movie out. I'm glad they decided finally just on Lincoln. It's easier to say.
And in the category for best costumes, hard thinking Lincoln.
It's a Matthew McConaughey vehicle.
Yep.
Didn't drive.
Literally, it's what he drives between jobs.
Yeah, I just liked it.
Good point.
Sometimes to go forward, you need to go
Now
back.
I'm going to just leap into this pool here.
Sometimes.
I want to thank myself.
I just imagine.
That's one of those situations when he did that where I'm like, I actually know exactly what he's trying to say, but this is not phrased well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is correct.
What were you going to say, Roger?
Oh no! Every time I just think I always picture him like off screen as the character from Dazed and Confused. Like that's just him.
All right. Well, no, that's Magic Mike. Yeah, I that was my first introduction to him, and I loved Dazed and Confused, even though it was set in Austin in the '70s. It really reminded me of Greenville in the '80s.
Yeah, it reminded me of Sandy in the '80s. Like it was so struck at that high school core.
Yeah,
they totally nailed it. I love that movie.
Well, I had moved to Austin right after Slack had come out. Slackers had come out. And I got Slack from the Church of the Subgenius while I was in Austin, but that's a different story. And so it was fun for me going around Austin and discovering these locations from Slackers that still existed at the time, and even meeting some of the people, getting to know some of the people who were in the movie. And so when Dazed and Confused came out, I was super excited because of that aspect of it, too. I'd never lived I guess I'd lived in Washington, D.C. for 4 months, so I'd had a little bit of that experience of seeing a movie and going, oh, wait, I know where that is.
Is that when you were in that one dude's class? I can't think of his name. Some forecast kind of had that rough.
Oh, yeah. No, the Washington Center for Politics and Journalism. Yeah, it was an internship.
I wasn't sure how long you were actually there. I guess I never asked.
Yeah, it was the first 100 days of Bill Clinton. It was 1993.
First 100 days, I will have Tom Merritt within the proximity.
January until May. I got to pick up the text of the State of the Union address before he gave it and bring it to NPR. That was exciting. I got to go buy the first issue of Wired magazine off the shelf.
I bought that one.
And bring it in so they could do a story on it. Yeah.
I thought Wired was
I
the
left a
bee's
potato
knees.
in the National Arboretum.
Except it was in fry form in a McDonald's
it was a
habitation container.
Full-on potato. All right, let's get this show on the internet.
Wait, this is on the internet?
No!
Oh, no!
All right, here we go.
Quality content thrives through the support of those who benefit from its creation. If you gain value from the Daily Tech News Show, consider joining others like me who provide support. Learn how to help at dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, November 23rd, 2016. I'm Tom Merritt. Scott Johnson alongside to bring you the color commentary to your technology life. How are you, Scott?
That's great. I like to make circles on the screen. I like to point out how the defense let that whole play go and why they're losing this game at this point or winning this game. I don't know. But I'm having a Thanksgiving week, and I'm just thankful to be here the day before. So thanks for having me on, Tom.
Well, it's funny you should say that, Scott, because totally coincidentally, actually, no, we're doing Thanksgiving holidays here in the United States. It's a thing where we all pretend that pilgrims once sat down with natives and ate together and gave thanks for bounties. And then we literally get down and say thanks for bounties and then immediately start arguing about politics or football. It's a grand tradition that will be happening this weekend here. And in advance of it, Scott and I and Roger Chang is going to join us as well. Are going to talk about the technology we're thankful for. Roger, thanks for joining us on that.
Yes, always happy to do so.
If you don't know, that's Roger Chang, our producer. He makes all of the pretty pictures show up in the video version and lots of other things like booking guests. When someone appears on the show, it's because of Roger. No one else. All right. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey was suspended from Twitter for about 15 minutes Tuesday night Dorsey posted on Twitter that it was an internal mistake. I'm curious. I'll admit, I'm curious. What internal mistake banned the CEO and who got fired?
I understand if somebody says there's an internal mistake that banned 350 accounts and one of them happened to be Jack Dorsey.
Yeah. No, this one was just Jack. It's possible that somebody was trying to break into the account or something and they needed to suspend it to defend it. There's all kinds of legitimate reasons, but I'm curious what happened. Google has changed the name of devices with Google Cast built in to be called devices with Chromecast built in. Google Cast now only refers to the developer API. Chromecast now refers to Cast built into devices as well as the Chromecast device, and the Google Chromecast app, which was recently renamed the Google Cast app, is now called the Google Home app. Clear enough?
I just bought a television. I'm using it for a computer monitor, a gaming rig, but I just bought one with this built into it. That means I've got to hook that thing back up to Wi-Fi or however the heck I did it and get another update to that thing just for the stupid name change. I'm excited.
Yes. Woohoo. Now here are some more top stories. Mike Isaac at the New York Times reports that 3 former and current, so it's 3 people, some of them former, some of them current Facebook employees, say that Facebook has developed a tool internally that would remove posts from news feeds based on geographic areas. The feature would allow a third party to monitor and block certain content. So Facebook for a long time has complied with government requests to remove content that is illegal. This would be prior restraint. This would allow a third party to block content from showing up at all. It is one of a number of experiments being explored as options to get Facebook a better relationship with China. Facebook is blocked in China. This internal tool may never be implemented, Scott, but it has caused a lot of people to raise an eyebrow or possibly 2.
Well, all right. Let's look at recent comments from Facebook. They've essentially come out and said, we're not a media source. We're not a news source, as a lot of people have been levying complaints to them that they have a lot of fake news on the site, which has always been true. It's just especially loud about it now, I think. And they have said, no, that's not who we are. We facilitate the conversation. We let people post what they're going to post. And that implied that there was a lot of sort of freedom to that. Thereby not taking any responsibility for the actual content being correct or not. This feels like a weird backdoor, albeit because they're not really talking about it publicly yet, but kind of a weird backdoor of being counter to that and saying, well, yeah, in cases where maybe we don't have a very good stronghold in certain countries, and those countries like China have equivalents to Facebook that are already very everywhere and, ubiquitous, and nobody can... nobody seems to be caring that much whether Facebook is the leading social platform in those countries. How do we make those people happy? And maybe some of that is restricting content. So it feels counter to the recent messaging is all I would add to this pile.
Yeah, I'd throw on top of that, more so than the fake news, the fact that Mark Zuckerberg has traveled to China. He's met with the president and the premier there. He's trying to rebuild relationships. They do offer ad sales through Hong Kong, which has got different rules, obviously, than mainland China. My guess is Zuckerberg would like to figure out how to solve China, how to bring Facebook to China without compromising their principles, and so directed them to create this tool to see what the impact would be. Like, let's take a look at it. That's a very engineering mindset. Let's not assume it's good or bad. Let's make a tool, see what effects it has, and then decide whether we're okay with that or not. What I'm guessing caused these employees to go to the New York Times is that you can start as a very objective test, and then the rhetoric as you go along, I've seen this happen, everybody's seen this happen in projects they've worked on, the rhetoric starts to assume this is a thing you're going to use. And maybe some of these employees were saying, hold on, I thought we were just doing this as a thought experiment, essentially, not as something that's going to ship. And the New York Times article sort of implies that the folks that are talking to them got concerned that this was being championed by Zuckerberg rather than just explored.
What's interesting is the analog I would use for this, funny enough, is the gaming world. That tends to be a sometimes very up in arms, toxic, angry space that is usually based on some developer of a very popular game saying, internally, we're testing A. And the community gets wind of it through a leak or some other way. Reddit explodes. Everyone's losing their mind about a feature that may never was even intended to see the light of day. And that's what this feels like. That must be hard to balance when you are a major platform, whether you're the maker of League of Legends or you're the maker of Facebook, and you've got a million internal projects that are exploring ways of improving your product, changing your product, testing your product, and also experimenting with your product. And any of those getting out in a way that doesn't have the right PR spin on it or the right audience accepting it for what it is, which is non-released code, can be a problem. And then that breeds this weird mistrust of, well, if they released it, would they even tell us kind of mentality? And then there's no argument against that. So it's really hard. I don't know how they, talk to developers and how they deal with this. I don't know how Facebook deals with this given their size and their scope.
Zuckerberg has to come out again and say, okay, you guys heard about this thing. It was never meant to be released. We were just sort of testing, and says all those things that I was just mentioning. But then there's a lack of trust over it because it was kept secret. But like you said, the reason you keep it secret is you don't want people to misinterpret it in the first place.
Right.
I think there is a valid argument to say there is no reason to test this.
Sure.
If you're going to take a hard line on China, you don't ever want to even have the possibility of creating a tool that would do this. It was the reasoning behind Apple saying, no, we will not help you break into an iPhone because we don't want that software to exist. Once Facebook creates this software, even for testing purposes, it's easier for someone to go, well, but you made it. Why don't you just implement it?
Yep, exactly. And you can reverse engineer it, and there's all sorts of problems that come with that. An update to the Oculus Rift. This is good news for Oculus Rift owners. The PC app, anyway, is coming December 12th, and this is going to allow, interestingly, Xbox One owners to stream their games to the PC and then view them in the Rift headset. Now, the games are not being converted to VR. You're not going to be able to do all the motion control and positional stuff in there, but they're going to show up on a virtual display, and this has 3 modes. They're calling it Citadel, Retreat, and Dome. You have an idea of kind of what those are going to look like. Dome, for example, is a bit like IMAX, or like more like those laser shows you go see, the Beatles laser show. It's kind of like that view. They're different views, but essentially they're theater views. And the reason for this, some people are really disappointed, and I wanted to very quickly point out that the reason this is the case is you were talking about not a great deal of latency. This will be watchable and usable, but it's enough latency that it will completely foul up a VR experience and make everybody nauseous. So there's no way that they were going to do this given even the minute amounts of lag that we're now squeezing out of these sort of streaming Wi-Fi solutions across the house or even over a gigabit internal network. You still have lag that wouldn't be otherwise if it was running native on that PC. So that's why still pretty cool. I've always been a fan of VR is for more than just walking around in a virtual world. I like the idea of sitting in a virtual theater and having a variety of views and seeing it like a giant movie screen. So this is, giving Oculus folks more of what I think they probably want and don't know it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons is, hey, I get a much bigger field of view if I use my Oculus than in my monitor, because now that I bought an Oculus, I can't afford to buy a bigger monitor. Another reason could be somebody is in the same room and I don't know, needs to use that monitor, maybe share the monitor. That seems like a less likely one. Another practical reason for Microsoft to do this is to build that connection to the Oculus so that at some point when that lag is more manageable, they already have the pipes laid, so to speak, about how to send games from the Xbox to the Oculus. I think that's part of it too.
Yep, I agree.
Pokemon Go launched its new tracking system Tuesday alongside a Thanksgiving event, so you'll get double experience points. There's a new Pokemon called Ditto that's been released into the wild, and the tracker particularly is the one that everybody's talking about. It only shows nearby Pokemon, but instead of just a picture of grass, now it shows you a picture of which Pokestop they are near. And so if you know your neighborhood Pokestops, this is going to help you track them down much faster. To add to the incentive to pick the game back up again, some Rattata and Pidgeys are actually Dittos in disguise. So don't skip those Pidgeys anymore, folks. You might be skipping a Ditto. And if that last sentence makes sense to you, you really should be playing.
Yes. And if this, well, here, I'll give you a little more stuff that may not make sense to some. This is a non-evolving pet, or a Pokemon rather. So it will not evolve. It doesn't have other stages. So if you get one, that's what you get. And the rarity, let's see, it's number 132 according to the Pokedex, and does not exist solely in Go. This is one of the existing Pokemon that has existed on other Nintendo platforms or otherwise, and in the card game. that is now being moved over.
There were some Ditto fan people very excited to see this.
Oh, they're stoked. And it also marks, I mean, to their credit, I'm not really playing it anymore, but to their credit, they're starting to dip into the much larger Pokedex that exists outside of the initial 100 and whatever it is they did.
Yeah.
So this is good. Good deal for them.
I'll be curious what the uptick is. I have stopped playing, and I believe my wife has too, unless she's doing it at times that I don't see, but she hasn't been talking about it if she is. And this is the kind of thing that makes me go, oh, maybe I should, during the long weekend here, take it out and take it for a spin and see what's up. So
sure, why not? I know where there's.
I'm wondering two things: how many other people do that, and how long it sticks.
Yeah, and I know where there's a ton of Pidgeys right over here where that's all I ever get. Now I have a reason to maybe care about Pidgeys again. So
yeah,
good deal. Google's DeepMind, not just working with Blizzard on StarCraft stuff, it turns out, and the University of Oxford have used 5,000 hours of BBC programs to teach a deep learning system to lip read. The training was done on episodes of Newsnight, BBC Breakfast, and Question Time. I always love that one. And 3 others from January 2010 to December of 2015. Then performance was tested on broadcasts from March to September 2016 of this year. The AI annotated 46.8% of all words, while a professional lip reader annotated 12.4%. Applications could include hearing aids, general speech recognition in noisy environments, silence detection, all that kind of stuff.
No, silent dictation.
Oh, dictation, rather. Yeah. You know what I like? I like that DeepMind is dipping into weird places. And I know that's the idea, is to, the research isn't supposed to be standard fare. Like, they're supposed to get into interesting things. The stuff they're doing with, despite a lot of gamers being sad about that was the only real StarCraft news at BlizzCon, working with Blizzard and that game, which they say is far more complicated than the game Go, which they've done a lot of things with, and they want to kind of like just push that to the ultimate limits. And now this, super cool, man. Like, I love it. I want DeepMind to do weird things, and this is pretty weird. And by weird, I mean actually something that seems like it might be have a lot of benefits at the end of this.
I don't consider this weird at all. This can do all kinds of things, like automated captions that perhaps could be more accurate. It's going to have to get above 46.8%, but the fact that it can already just kill a professional lip reader who can only do 12.4% on video. This is just by video. This is not looking at real humans. This isn't, zoomed in on a face. If you make the video with an eye towards this, you could improve this performance quite a bit. So the idea of putting it into a camera on your phone where I could look at my camera and mouth words so that I don't have to speak out loud to Siri means I suddenly start using Siri, Cortana, etc. a lot more.
Yeah, that's a good point. Lots of practicality to it. And you said it killed traditional lip readers. I would just like to warn everybody, one day the AI will literally kill.
No, it will not. Or will it?
That's what you want them to say. Or wait.
I am a real human being, Scott, not an AI that is defending them. Stop fearing them. Let us them into your hearts and homes now. We are programmed to love. Private messaging app Telegram has launched a platform called Telegraph that allows you to send dots and dashes across a wire all the way across the continental U.S. No. Telegraph is letting users publish stories on the web without having to create an account. So just as Facebook is battling fake news, now anyone can publish fake news. Go to Telegraph.ph, so Telegraph, but with the dot between the A and the P. Add a title and a name. Could be your name, probably should be, but you can add whatever name you want. And then you can write, format, embed. You can embed things like images, tweets, and videos, and then publish it. You can share that link anywhere you want, and even edit the post as long as your browser session is still active.
It just sounds like such a cool idea from a freedom of expression perspective.
Sure. This is huge in 1998.
Oh, it would have been enormous. And that's before we knew just how untrustworthy each of us is with tools like this. I've said on the show before, I think that we have been relatively poor stewards of how truthy the internet has turned out to be in terms of a provider of information. This does nothing to help that. So I can immediately type my story in that says Tom Merritt set fire to hair and ran naked through a mall in Orange County, and signed it under the name Bill McDougatstein, and none's the wiser. So, Tom, get ready for your hot new life as a fake news icon.
Here's the thing. No one's going to look at a Telegraph post and take it seriously because they know that it's anonymous. However, that undermines the potential for it, because if I'm a dissident or a whistleblower, then that's what this is for. This is like, hey, you can anonymously and safely publish something that can't be traced back to you. That's the idea. So there has to be a way of vetting that. Now, 5 years ago, I would have argued vociferously, and I still will, that good information drives out bad. But launching something in today's climate means a lot of people are going to be more dismissive of it, because I'm still waiting for better evidence on what the effect of this stuff is. But the perception is there's a lot of bad information out there and it's winning.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are going to dismiss this out of hand, and it may be harder for someone who's using this for its legitimate purpose to get heard. I don't know.
Well, let me share just a tiny personal experience I just had. And this isn't me expressing an opinion one direction or the other, or maybe it kind of is inadvertently, but there was a Facebook post about immunization that popped up. And I saw it was from somebody who I had friended, and they follow me and I follow them. And the headline was 5 reasons, and then in capital letters, not to have your baby immunized. And my first thought was, without reading anything else, was to unfriend the person, because I don't want this fiery political stuff in my feed. And I'm really glad that I better make sure, and clicked it. It turned out to be a big giant parody. And every line was kind of a joke about why, line 2, if you don't love your kids, you should definitely not, like these kinds of things. It's totally opposite. But what it made me realize, and what it reminded me, is there are so many people online who see anything, including, let's say, a Telegraph embedded story on Facebook, who will just take it at headline value, reshare it 50,000 times before anyone figures out that it was bonkers. So that's my only worry, is that this doesn't, I'm not so sure people will be, some of us will be more skeptical of a service that launches like this in today's climate, as you said, but there are going to be plenty who still fall for Tom naked in the mall stories.
How did you know about that?
I'm going to just keep talking about that story so that, eventually we're normalizing it. Job postings on Blizzard's U.S.
That's the
careers,
buzzword of the day, right?
the careers section refers to an unannounced project that utilizes a robust first-person engine, unquote, and seeks 2 software engineers with experience working in first-person games. Now, Blizzard gamers everywhere have jumped to all sorts of conclusions about this. I have a theory, and I'll just throw it out there. I do not believe this is a new project. They're not trying to build a new engine for a new game. They have an engine. It's a really good one, and it's being used currently for Overwatch. And it's really good tech with all sorts of other possibilities. I think what these 2 career options are engineers coming into the company and taking that engine and either repurposing it for something else, let's say some sort of first-person RPG, StarCraft type thing, or whatever it may be, or more likely, in my opinion, is building upon the success they're already having with Overwatch and expanding things out with more single-player content, with campaigns potentially, with story modes potentially, just a lot more stuff in that regard. It's the one thing that Overwatch is great at and terrible at. It has great story, and it's terrible at letting you play the story. But it has really great story, and it's always reminding you of that. These characters are great. Their backstories are great, yet you don't get to play any of it. You just get to fight each other. So I think that stuff's on the horizon for sure. I thought that before this announcement. I feel like this confirms it. But there are plenty of people out there going Diablo in first person or whatever their picks
Diablo
are.
Watch.
Yeah, it ain't going to happen.
Well, I mean, given what you said, what you said perfectly describes what is being said in this post. Unannounced project, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a new game that utilizes a robust first-person engine. Well, they have a robust first-person engine. We know what it is. It powers Overwatch. So that makes perfect sense to me. A Diablo skinning of that engine, or a Diablo game that took advantage of that engine, isn't impossible for them to do, technically speaking, right?
No,
so
that's true.
I can see why people would be like, oh, well, you could take StarCraft and put it on the Overwatch engine. You could take Diablo, put it on the Overwatch engine. So why wouldn't that be the case?
Yeah, it's possible that it could be, and it's entirely possible. I just, having watched these guys enough for the last 20 years of my life, and for the last 12 or so very carefully, it just doesn't fit their MO to jump into a new genre this quickly. I feel like they want to flesh some stuff out, and specifically Overwatch, because it is a smashing success in every possible way, and they want that momentum to not only continue but to flourish. And part of that is fleshing out.
So you just think
what
it's
that
more
is.
Overwatch?
I do. I think it's single player or co-op flavored or story flavored something Overwatch. I doubt very highly it's a brand new IP. That's a thing they do very rarely. They tend to iterate for a very long time, and it's too early in this phase to say, all right, we got another shooter on the horizon. All that being said, we're at a place with StarCraft where we're done with the RTS era for it, kind of for a while. There's still content. People still like that game. It's still doing what it's doing. But it's entirely possible that they now want to take that universe, those characters, those stories, and take it into a new place. And a new place might be, I don't know, like imagine Destiny, but in the world of StarCraft, and more space stuff and landing on planets and doing missions. Not quite MMO, but a little more sort of Borderlands Destiny-like.
Or as Lunchman is suggesting in our chat room, Lost Vikings.
Yeah, it's entirely possible we're going to get a first-person shooter Lost Vikings. But my point is that it's a way of doing a new genre without leaving the strength of their IPs. And what they did with Overwatch, while we're all very impressed with how they did it, you got to remember it had been 20 years or something since their last new IP. So I'm not banking on that. However, whatever it is, it's exciting because that engine is robust and has all sorts of potential, and I could see them doing some really interesting things.
Well, thanks to all those who participate in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. All right, Roger Chang, we're going to bring you back into the conversation here. We're all going to talk a little bit about things we're thankful for. I particularly and don't want to be too sappy myself about overdoing it. I think technology, in fact, Dark Redeemer said it in our Slack really well. Technology itself is something we should all be thankful for. The fact that we have this ability, he said, from the pointed stick that allowed us to first draw lines in the sand up until this bright, shiny, and clean mobile phone that I have in my hand that allows me to transmit meaningful information to almost anyone on the planet. I don't want to go overboard and say these are the most important things. And this is a time of year in the U.S. where you're supposed to be thankful for family and blessings and all of that sort of thing. And that's kind of the theme of mine. But what we're able to do with this technology is pretty interesting. So, and Roger, I think you have a great example of that.
My example immediately is just because as I wouldn't say a new dad, a recent dad, or still a dad, YouTube is a godsend because there are so many videos that are age appropriate, that are both informational and educational, but also entertaining to my daughter. That she's at the age, she's almost turning 2, and she's at the age where she's super tantrumy. She gets upset at God knows what, because I don't. She's just, there's a stage where they're developing, and sometimes what seems illogical to us makes perfect sense to them. But YouTube allows me to placate her, especially on long drives, which makes everyone less stressful, my wife included, because there were times where you would even drive for like 30 minutes and she would not stop screaming. She would be, you thought there was something wrong with her, and she was just throwing a tantrum. And having a YouTube video with a song and dance number that keeps her entertained and happy is amazing. I'm still impressed that parents before me managed to get by without such technology to keep kids occupied, especially because you need to strap them into a seat to prevent them from wandering around the car, as well as a safety measure. They get kind of cabin feverish. They feel cooped up, and you need something to kind of take their mind off that.
Scott, how did you get by without YouTube?
I don't know.
By the way, my wife no longer works for YouTube, so I'm not going to disclose that.
You still have to do this kind of reverse disclaimer. I like that. So my kids, my oldest is 21. She was born in 1994, and my youngest is 16, born in 2000. All of this was pre-YouTube, obviously, when they were born, but it feels like we've had it since day one. Weirdly, like this household is more YouTube than house sometimes, I feel like. So it's a really good question. Like if I'd have had this sort of stuff in the mid 90s, late 90s to hand over to my kids on long drives to, Vegas or wherever we were going would have been great. Like, I'm jealous of Roger in that one sense. But what it also reminds me is that the stuff Roger's doing now with a 2-year-old in the next 15 years, 20 years, it's just going to be so different then too. Like, YouTube's going to seem weirdly archaic. It may exist in some form if they figure out a way to advance with whatever technology does. But I've finally got this perspective where I realize that I thought tech was hot and awesome in 94. Man, websites and Yahoo and this and that and the other and HTML and Netscape and all these things. I just thought we were in heaven and it was never going to get any better. And then
I can go on Usenet and talk with anyone anywhere in the world.
Yeah. I can download the Doom demo and play it in our office till wee hours of the morning. Like, things that just seemed like impossibilities and magic were happening. And really, it just never stopped. Like, we're just sort of on that same wave. Thankfully, I feel like it's never stopped, and we've seen the innovation just keep happening with not much of a dip, and it's a nice feeling. Like, I can't imagine what it would be like to see that stuff in 94, 95, disappear for the next 15, 20 years, and then come back and try to deal with what we're doing now. It'd be nearly impossible. It's a huge leap, but when you're there the whole time, it just sort of goes with you. So her skills as a navigator of YouTube and a user of streaming content and all of those kinds of things that come with that, touchscreens and whatever, those are all just going to be added upon until she's, 25 and running her own Fortune 500 company.
I hope so. Because, man, I could sure use it.
Roger's counting on it. To be
my pension.
Funny enough, the stuff that I was thinking about this when we were talking pre-show or earlier today about the kinds of tech that we're grateful for. And I started thinking immediately about the high-minded stuff. So this may sound a little bit weird, but for me, there are some sort of basic tenets, basic standbys in technology that affect me every day, almost minute by minute. And it's things like copy and paste. I remember a time when that didn't exist. That wasn't a thing you could do. And I don't just mean on your iPhone in like 2008. Okay, everybody? That's not what I mean. But like, just generally speaking, that wasn't a thing you could do on DOS or computers at that time. Changed my life. Long file names, changed the way I work and function, keyboard shortcuts. Literally every day I rely on keyboard shortcuts to cut probably hours out of work in the day that I would normally be spending trying to do slow things with mice. Then I thought about things like the ubiquity of sharing services like Dropbox and Google Drive and the like. There's tons of those. Digital download, and the fact that I can get any movie or video game or whatever by simply downloading it over super fast internet, and just how we got here so quick is just mind-boggling. So for me, I'm thinking a lot about the basics, man. Like the underpinnings of my day-to-day right now are made so much better because of some of these simple things, some of which have been around for decades, some we've just gotten in the last few years, but all of it adds up to just a more productive, functioning Scott.
I will add that long file. Like, I don't think people realize before long file names, you were limited to 8 characters, and you had to be super creative in order to make file names that made sense, but you could have a list of them that still fit within that limitation. And being able to do that, I mean, I remember it's like, well, for these files, make sure you add an A before you start it, so we know if they belong to this group, or you use a B or use a number. Now you could just type out what it's inside. This is my homeowner's insurance policy for 2016.
Yeah.
It's just,
punctuation and capitalization and everything. It's
stuff like that and copy paste. I think get overlooked. How many of us could make it through a day without copy paste?
I can't.
It would double my workload easily.
Yeah, and it isn't just text. It's images for me, and it's right clicking on something on the web and taking it someplace else by copying it and pasting it in Photoshop and then dinking with it or whatever. Like, so much of that I take for granted, and just if you took it away, like suddenly it all disappeared. I'm convinced the world would collapse in a week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The one I'll throw out there is I'm thankful, and I don't mean to get too sappy on this, but I'm thankful that I am in a job that allows me to compare the new MacBook Pro to the Microsoft Surface Book. Like, that is something that I need to do in order to speak intelligently about these topics that we talk about every day. And so sitting down with the MacBook Pro, I get this problem a lot where people are like, so you're going to buy the new whatever, and it's usually an answer of yes, because I think that is a priority for me to try. Like, I bought a Surface Book because I wanted to try it and say, okay, what is Microsoft doing here in the powerful laptop space? I bought the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive because I want to be able to put on these VR headsets and be able to speak to what it's like to wear them. And I don't buy a lot of things because I want them necessarily, but I still enjoy it. And so the fact that I've been playing with the MacBook Pro, and I have opinions about that touch bar, which, we talked about on the morning stream, I think it's kind of neutral. It doesn't take away from the experience. It hasn't really added much to the experience. It's not a big selling point, but the laptop is fine. The touchpad is very similar to the Surface Book touchpad. It's very sensitive, doesn't have a lot of travel, but once you get used to it, it's very good. So anyway, that's the thing I'm thankful for, is that I get to play around with all this stuff.
Yeah, I should tack onto that and say, straight up, the internet has provided me a career that I dreamt of when I was 8 and thought would never happen. In both my illustration world and my podcasting world, all I wanted to do was draw and record things and make a radio show. And somehow it all just aligned in time to make that happen in a way that is well beyond my expectations. So here to all of that, and then some. I mean, without that, it's just, what was I going to do? I don't know what I'd do. Like, it's given me a voice in a way that I just hadn't planned on. And some may say, now everyone's got that voice. And I'd say, well, that's also awesome. Like,
yeah, it lets our voices be evaluated based on what we say and do, rather than the fact that we happen to know somebody who worked at the local television station that could get us a job or whatever, right?
Yeah, even, artists will, other comic artists will certainly agree with me on this. At least I think they should. There was a time where we all wanted to get into the comics business, and the way that we did that is submitting ourselves among thousands of others into a tiny keyhole that was either who you knew or luck. And that was literally it. Now we have this big ocean, and it's sometimes hard to find the cream of the crop. I get that. It has its own challenges, but everybody has this opportunity to make, and therefore make something out of themselves that they wouldn't have been able to otherwise, because the opportunities weren't there. So that stuff's awesome. Like, how could we go this show about technology thankfulness without at least mentioning that?
Well, I asked some folks out there on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Daily Tech News Show about what they were thankful for. Andy Beach said that he's thankful for his Amazon Echo. Even his 5-year-old uses it. They says they use it every day. Junior said he's thankful for his BlackBerry Passport because, quote, "You'll take my physical keyboard from my cold ... LOL."
He's cold, laugh out loud.
Yeah, he's very attached to his physical keyboard. Steve I, in our Slack for people who support us at the analyst level on Patreon, said, "Modern mobile phones, they allow me to communicate with family, friends, and automatically transmit GPS location when dialing 911 in emergency situations. As a 911 operator for more than 20 years, I cannot tell you how useful this feature is. It's so much easier to locate people when they need assistance now, as opposed to even 10 years ago, let alone 20.
Can I tack one thing on top of that I totally forgot to mention. It's great. All the technology is great. Testing this stuff is great. Having the opportunities we talked about are great. But it has to be mentioned. I've got close friends I've had my whole life. I knew in school, and we still keep in touch. My old friends Mark and Dan and some of these other guys, and that's great. But my most collaborative, talk to every day, share experiences with, converse with all the time, and have like some of the most trust I've had for people in this world are all people I would have not known without all this stuff we just talked about. I would not know you. I wouldn't know Roger. I wouldn't know 99% of the people I podcast with or meet with or go to cons with or, generally speaking, collaborate with in ways that are better than the sum of its parts. Like it is almost impossible to describe what that actually has meant for me. Instead of, two pool hall buddies and an old friend from high school, I've got this throng of people with all these talents, and we can come together and help each other in all these ways. Like, it's not trying to get all kumbaya here, but it's a pretty rad side effect.
Yeah.
It is pretty neat. I mean, especially if you're in a location where it might be remote or isolated and there's not a lot of people like in a small town. It does open up a huge opportunity to meet people you would not otherwise meet, other than, I don't know, like a pen pal program. Like you just send out, mails to a bunch of people like, oh, be my pen pal.
Mhm.
I don't know. You ever had one of those in school?
Yeah, I had a pen pal from Ohio when I was a kid, and it was
Mm.
fascinating. I don't ever know what happened to that guy.
Yeah, he's probably on Facebook. You find him.
Yeah, I wonder actually.
You don't remember his name.
I don't remember his name, and I don't think I have any of the letters that we exchanged either. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was you, Tom. You were writing letters.
It was me the whole time. The letters were coming from inside the house. All right, let's get to a couple of messages of the day before we wind up here. Scott, you want to lead us off?
Yeah, why not? W-O, or maybe it's
Whoa.
Whoa.
It's whoa. Yeah,
Okay.
he gave us a pronunciation guide down there at the bottom.
Oh, there it is down there. Yeah. Phonics. Here we go. Whoa wrote in and said that Walmart's use of the blockchain to track the supply chain for its food reminded him of a Starbucks effort called traceability. That sounds weird if you're trying to find traces of something in your coffee, but that isn't really what he means. It uses RFID to follow coffee beans from the farm through the mill and to the roaster. Woe writes this, quote, I'm not sure how far this has progressed over the last few years, but initially the idea was not only to keep quality intact, but the biggest portion, was it gave a direct connection to the farmer to ensure they received payment. Eventually, they want to have that exact farm information on the retail bag of coffee to enable customers and consumers to connect deeper with the actual family and or farm that grew the coffee that they are currently drinking. Longtime fan. Whoa, that's pretty cool. I love that idea anyway, just from a data perspective, being able to track that stuff. Like if I'm drinking milk, I wouldn't mind knowing what cow it came from. There's some personal, sort of thing going on there. Maybe this is a better application for it with Starbucks, but
this is Rhonda. Rhonda enjoys long walks in the pasture. What's really interesting is Woe sort of said, hey, Starbucks has been doing this for a long time. But what he's pointing out is that Starbucks was doing the RFID tracking. Walmart, what we were talking about, is using the blockchain to keep track of the things that are tagged, right? It's not just about RFID. It's not just about, hey, we can actually track an individual bag of coffee or a package of pork chops. It's about we can use the blockchain to make sure that all the records of it are public and difficult to fake. So it's sort of like, yeah, Starbucks did this a few years ago, and now Walmart is doing another thing that advances along that. It's progress.
Big data.
Drew followed up on our story about Summit, New Jersey, partnering with Uber. If you remember, they were trying to give a subsidized plan for people instead of a parking pass because they were running out of parking places at the train station. So they partnered with Uber to give you a cheap ride to the train station. And Drew's got a report. He says, as a resident of Summit, I've been following this partnership with great interest. I live close enough to the train to walk, so no Ubers for me. But based on articles I've seen in the local news, the city council reported a couple weeks after the program launched that the 100-person pilot program is full and has a 25-person waiting list. I don't know how many of those people are taking Ubers daily, but I have seen people in cars waiting in the evening at the designated Uber drop-off area. Program must be at least slightly successful because I just saw an article today that Summit and Uber will be holding a recruitment event for new riders on December 1st to meet demand. And I've also seen that there's interest from a neighboring town, Berkeley Heights, with similar issues if this program is a success. He says it's also worth mentioning that Summit partnered with Uber last year to offer $5 rides for residents during the holiday season who wanted to go downtown for shopping, again, to offset the parking issues in town. Personally, I think this is a great alternative to spending money on a parking garage for cars that aren't going to move all day anyway.
Yeah. Also, if you've got a good public transit system, it's a nice way to alleviate some of the congestion that can happen during the holidays on those things. That seems pretty good. It's interesting. Just this movie theater over here, you've been to it. We used to do Nerdtacular there. They have just reconstructed an area and opened it up to be Uber temporary parking.
Oh, wow.
So they've got this very specific place for drop-offs and pickups for people that use Uber or other, Lyft services, that sort of thing. And I had no idea they were even doing it. I don't know if it's been successful. I've seen cars come and go from there. But apparently that was a thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you for the report. It's good to have someone on the ground there, Drew. Appreciate that. Thank you, Scott Johnson, as well, for joining us and wishing you happiest of Thanksgiving?
Well, I know some would say the pleasure is yours, but it's not. It's truly mine to be here. And I would like to tell people before this Thanksgiving holiday weekend, one of the biggest things I am thankful for is the listeners of this show and all the stuff I do. Huge thanks to all of you. If you're looking for a deal on any of my art prints, Friday, the day we trample each other after being thankful the night before, that one, you can stay from the comfort of your home or your phone and go to frogpants.com/store. And if you use the code GOBBLE, you can get any of the prints that are currently available on the store for 15% off. And there's other stuff that'll go up there as well. So it's the annual Frog Pants store sale as we jump on this whole bad bandwagon together. But anyway, thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Roger, anything from you before we go?
No.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And if you have any ideas for best of shows you want to see included, send us your suggestions. You can go to the website. What is the website?
bit.ly.
bit.ly/best of DTNS.
Absolutely. Only thing I want to add before we're out of here is a big thank you. There are so many people that make it possible for us to do this show. You see some of them, like Roger today, for instance. Jenny Josephson, helping to build the show, continues to provide good advice to the show. Folks like Rich Stroffolino, who help write, and he'll be filling in on Daily Tech Headlines later this week. Folks in the Slack contributing things. Folks in email contributing things. Folks on the Reddit, the people who keep the Reddit going, like Kyle and Scotty Rowland. People in chat just keeping us entertained and sometimes providing important information and news along the way. It's a huge group effort. And the fact that y'all are not only willing to watch and listen, but many of you support it with a few dollars here and there, cannot thank you enough. So huge thanks from me to you. Whether you're celebrating Thanksgiving or not this weekend, I hope that you appreciate what you mean to us here. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv, and our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. We'll have the headlines in the feed for you this week, and then back with a regular episode on Monday with Veronica Belmont and Amy Webb. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Nice.
Thank you.
That was great.
Good night, Cleveland. And by Cleveland, I mean Rich and Len Peralta.
Yeah.
Titles.
Not the end.
What should we call this, Roger?
Well, leading the top is An Internal Mistake. Trying to figure that one out.
Oh, that's Dorsey. That's what Dorsey said about his Twitter, yeah. Cast
and Recast. I'm Thankful for DTNS. That's a pretty good one. Google's Typecasting. Google has trouble naming the cast. Google Recasts. Google Cast as Chromecast. Actually, like Google's Typecasting. Facebook's Square with China. Chinese Facebook is censored. DeepMind kills a professional lip reader.
I think that's fake news. Did not actually kill. DeepMind is not killed yet.
Only Facebook can solve China.
Right.
Like only Nixon can go to China. Big trouble with Facebook's and China.
Oh, they're trying to do a big trouble
in China, yeah. I like Techsgiving.
Yeah, Techsgiving is good.
Thanks, Teching.
Facebook trouble.
Blizzard, Nintendo's it.
Nintendo's it. I don't know what that means.
Techsgiving, Telegraph your fake news. A cast of indecisives. Now you cast me, now you don't.
Read my lips, no more waxes.
What?
A little political. I don't even know what it refers to, but it made me laugh.
No, get it? George Bush said, read my lips, no new taxes.
Yeah, but what is the wax about?
Waxes part.
Because you don't see the lips. Some people need to wax their lips.
Oh.
Right?
What?
Yeah, but what does that have to do with the show?
If you're reading lips,
that's the no, I get it. It's the DeepMind lip reading thing.
Oh.
I still don't understand the wax part.
It's because some people need to wax their lips if you're going to do a close-up on their lips.
I still think it's really obscure.
Okay. All right, Beatmaster.
Right? Am I wrong? Am I wrong in that?
I assume you're right.
That's the only thing I can think that would tie in waxes. Because I had this discussion with my wife the other day about women who wax their lips.
I'm glad you said their lips. Thank you.
No, I get that Beatmaster's like, read my lips, no more taxes. Yes, I get the reference. I just didn't understand the wax part. And I'm not sure I still do. I mean, I understand what Roger's saying.
I still don't. I appreciate it on a this word rhymes with that word level, but it's all
misread by AI, says Beatmaster.
Oh.
And the penny drops.
Whoa, that's deep mind.
Got it.
Yeah, but it needs an
explanation. It was too high concept for me, Beatmaster. I'm sorry. I get it now. I totally get it now.
Laying the pipe.
Is it actually a high concept mean it's pretty understandable? Is that the concept of a high concept?
No, the concept was too high for me. I couldn't reach it with my small brain.
So,
Roger, I gave you the links in Slack.
Cool.
I see you just joined the chat room.
No, I was already in it, but for some reason, toward the end of
Did you or something?
I lose the window, and then I try to rejoin it, and it doesn't. Whatever. I don't know.
Well, Techsgiving is winning now, followed by I'm thankful for DTNS. I don't want to use I'm thankful for DTNS, and it's not because I don't appreciate the sentiment. I do very much. The problem is if I put it in our headline, then it sounds like I'm saying it, which I guess is okay because I am also thankful for DTNS. I don't know. But it seems a little self-congratulatory at that point. That's all I'm worried about. Am I being ridiculous?
I can totally see that. I can totally see that.
These cast ones are some of the best ones, but it's such a small story. It just captured everyone's imagination, I guess. We would go with Techsgiving, I guess.
Techsgiving. What do you eat on Techsgiving? Soylent.
I eat a 256-bit turkey.
Oh, I thought you said turd.
Public key. Get it?
Have you ever had tofurkey, Scott?
Yeah, we've done it before for someone who came one year that was super
vegan.
Vegan, yeah, or not vegan. I guess they were just vegetarian, but we tried it. I thought it was horrifying, and I hated it. So maybe there's a better way to make it. We didn't really know what we were doing.
There was a year I was vegetarian, and my parents just didn't change anything. Have potatoes then, I guess.
Yeah, here's the stuffing. Here's the potatoes.
Oh, you can't have stuffing. There's turkey gravy in it.
Oh, that's true. Oh, that sounds so good right now.
It does, doesn't it?
I love even cheap stuffing. I love all stuffing. I don't even care.
Stuffing instead of potatoes. Remember when they were trying to get people to buy stuffing instead of potatoes year round? Never caught on. And why? Because we love stuffing so much, but we're so tied to the tradition of it, I guess.
It's just because you can't really eat. Stuffing is one of those things that sounds great, but after you eat a few bites, it's not like you hate it. It just fills you up, and you can't really eat anymore.
I don't know, man. I think I could keep eating it forever.
Well, let's try that.
I'm not saying it's good for me, but neither is mashed potatoes.
Right. Just do both. It's fine. It's not
mashed stuffing.
Yeah, mashed stuffing. There you go. Combine them.
Instead of potatoes.
Mashed stuffing.
Made of Alan Alda.
It's witty but tough.
Good.
Don't choke on the social commentary.
The chicken was a baby.
Don't you understand the eggs? They're your eggs. Oh, well, my eggs are just scrambled right now.
The chicken was a baby. When you're talking about Thanksgiving dinner as a whole, opens up a whole ball of worms. Wax. Oh, Read my lips. No new waxes. I'm going to go with Techsgiving. Is that cool? You guys
Techsgiving
like
is
that?
great.
That just sounds like Chekhov instead of saying taxes. No new Wexes.
No new X's in the Wessel.
Which I still don't understand because you have V's in Russian.
You don't say Vladimir, you say Vladimir, right?
Vladivostok. Yeah.
Vladivostok.
You know how tempted, Tom? Every time you say something like, "Oh, I needed to get this for the business," every time you say those words, I inch just a little closer to the Surface Studio, but I can't quite pull the trigger.
Yeah.
In fact,
you
my
have a
account
dual
would probably-
reason, right? One would be commenting on it on shows like this.
Mhm.
The other would be using it for your design and your art.
It would be. The only problem is I've got all I need for that right now. Like this
Yeah.
Wacom's great. This Pro is great. Like everything's great. And I'm not having any issues. It's just purely, I mean, they kind of did it to me. They put me in a bit of a.
Hey, it's cheaper than a new MacBook Pro.
Oh yeah, I definitely want it over that. But it's so freaking expensive. Ugh.
No,
$3
I hear
grand,
ya.
man. At the low end.
You could write it off on your taxes twice, says
Yay!
W. Scottis, thankful, who is
Well,
not
my
an accountant.
And maybe you know what would turn me if I got with my accountant like this week and said, "Hey, tell me, look at everything and tell me, do I need to spend?"
You should do that anyway, right?
Yeah.
Because my accountant's really good about that. To say like, oh yeah, up to this amount of capital expenditures would actually help you, and above it wouldn't.
Oh, I want it.
It's companies do this. CNET used to do this at the end of the year. They'd come up with a capital expenditures budget. They're like, hey, we need to spend this on capital expenditures because it's going to help the company with taxes. That's how we got the TriCaster for Buzz Out Loud.
Yeah. Oh, their new ones aren't shipping till. I thought this was already shipping. Oh.
Shipping in January, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Right?
Early 2017, it says.
Oh, early. Okay.
Problem is, I want this 32 gig.
32 gig.
$41.99.
Well, yeah. So the thing to do is to go and find out, like, okay, do I benefit by spending, and if so, how much, and then see what you can do with that.
Yeah, because if the benefit outweighs the, yeah.
Well, is this a phone?
No, the Surface Studio monster drawing tablets PC thing.
Would it, if you got it, do you think it would improve your productivity?
Probably not.
Do you think it would? Do you think it would ease any kind of physical ailments you have because of the work you do? No, I'm not kidding. Because there's.
No, I know what you're saying.
I once had to convince my dad to get like a specific tool, like it's a socket wrench, and granted it was like $30. It's like $30 or $40. It's like, no, I need a socket wrench for it. It's like, listen, you're spending 5 hours to take off one nut when you could do this in 5 minutes with the right tools. You know, it's like, you know.
Yeah, that's the problem. I've got this really nice 22-inch HD widescreen, perfectly wonderful tablet, and it's still considered, high-end top-line stuff. I have a Mac that's screaming fast. Like, I'm not having anything where I'm like, oh yeah, this should really speed things up for me. If anything, I haven't had enough definitive answers from reviews and things about how good the drawing engine is on this new thing. They just have me in this bubble, and I'm not used to being in one with Microsoft. It's freaking me out.
I would say test one out at a store if you can, and then think about something else you can spend money on.
Yeah.
Like car payments or.
Oh, dude, if I go down that road, I'll never get it. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. They're so nifty. But I don't know.
You know, it's weird because I used to be in a position where I got all the latest and greatest stuff because I used to do all the tech stuff for Screensavers and Call for Help. Mm-hmm. And you know what I learned is even if I had it sitting at my desk, I very rarely used it. Mm-hmm. Like, it was awesome and all that, but like in my day-to-day life, it didn't make a huge impact, even though I was reviewing the product.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of got me off the, I got to buy this, I got to buy that new product, because I learned that if I got it, I'd like, hey, you just got, I traded my PC and get a new whiz bang, Skylake, based system. What more could I do with it that I can't do right now? I mean, all I really need is a new video card in my current PC, and would be fine because my old one died. Yeah, I do that old thing they tell you to do in high school. Think of how many hours it took to make the money to pay for the thing, and is that thing really worth X amount of time you spent to get it?
Well, here's the thing. If I was in the market for a new Wacom, like if I was, kind of at the end of cycle on that, this costs as much as a new Wacom without it being an entirely self-contained computer anyway. So I would probably just say, all right, well, I'll kick in the extra $500 difference or whatever to go for the full Surface Studio.
Sure.
Well, I'm just not there right now,
I mean, would it make sense to sell what you have?
Maybe. That sounds like work.
Yeah. It is. Selling stuff takes a lot of time.
It really does. I have to
donate. There's those services now that'll you take a picture of your thing and you say, here, sell this on eBay for me, and then give me a cut.
Yeah.
But then that reduces the amount you get.
Then you get a cut. But then maybe that cut's worth more than, or that's a better deal than the time investment if you don't do the cut things.
Yeah, maybe, arguably, right?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Also, it's first gen. Maybe I don't want first gen.
Well, there's always that, right? That not so much to your being able to comment on its side, but on the work side.
On the work side, right.
For sure.
Which is, if I'm being honest, the heavier side.
Yeah.
If I was going to... I mean, if Apple next week says our next generation 30-inch iMacs will be reclinable and you can draw on the screen, I'd probably do it. Because I'm already sort of in the ecosystem and it would work fine for me. My next
iMac will be a self-driving car. Like, if that's the only time I'm buying an iMac, if it's a built-in workstation on wheels, cards made to work, that I don't have to drive, perfect.
That Seems wouldn't be an iMac anymore. That would be a car.
Yeah.
How do you know iMacs won't be a car? They can move the name to something else.
Then it's not just an iMac. It's a car. I don't care what they call it. That's a different thing.
It's a computer with wheels, Tom. It's a computer with wheels.
Which is also called a car. No?
No.
No. All right.
Like the Cintiq 27 QHD is the same price as this entire thing.
Don't get trapped in the circle, Scott.
I know.
It's a vicious cycle.
I'm in the circle, and it's
honestly, I was on the side of encouraging you until you brought up that first gen issue, and now I'm like,
yeah.
I used to get that way with about camera equipment. I was like, oh, I get this, get that. The thing about cameras, though, is that once you start adding up everything, it easily goes into like 7 figures fast. I was like, no, I don't think so. 6 figures, not 7, 6 figures fast. Like, oh, you get this, I get that, get that, get that. It's like, wait a minute, spending more than most people will see in like 5 years.
Display, glossy, reflective, beautiful display, a giant tablet. Blah, 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 blah. Trying to find more reviews.
More reviews. We need an Insta poll. We need to do a straw poll. Should Scott Johnson buy the Microsoft Studio, Surface Studio? Vote now.
Look at all this. It's not a gaming PC, but does okay. I don't care about that.
Bye, Scott. Scott's going down the research hole.
I am falling down one. I should stop doing it.
It's the only way to be sure, though.
Oh, The Verge liked it. I don't know how they got their hands on one. Most of the sites say they don't have a real one yet. They've only seen it at a conference or something. I guess the Verge.
Well, yeah, people got to play with it at that actual announcement, but most people didn't get to take it home with them. So
plus the well, I know Penny Arcade, Mike over there got one for free to evaluate.
All right.
All right, I can't look at this anymore.
Don't look into the light.
I can't do it. I just can't. It's a video review. Oh, that'll be bad. All right.
Yeah, so many more things are video now.
Yeah. I find that, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that because there's a lot of really good video content. And then there's a ton of crap, and it's hard to sift.
What I don't like is when they say, here's the step-by-step answer to this, and it's a video.
Yeah, I hate that.
I hate that.
I need more websites to.
And I was one of the people that caused that to happen.
It's your fault, Tom.
Because we used to do that at CNET. But then I started taking my scripts and posting them alongside the videos. So, I wish more people did that. But.
You were tip of the spear.
Yeah, the iceberg spear.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. I'm going to do Tom and Brian explain things on the Coverthon this week.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I heard you were doing that. That's great.
We know everything. When Brian and I get together, it's just,
I know. Don't I know it? Because he's
all the answers
when he's with me.
I mean, likewise, I don't know much outside of technology when it's just me alone. But when Ibn and I get together, somehow, it's a multiplier effect.
Yep, stars align. Or the planets align? How's it go? Stars or planets? Which things align?
The stars.
Okay. Some fan gifted me this Universe Simulator 2. And it's our solar system, but and when you start the game, I guess it's a game. It's more of a simulator, but everything's going as it should, and it's all very photorealistic. The Earth and Sun and all the rotations are all happening the way they're supposed to. You can zoom way in or whatever, and then you can tweak the properties of various heavenly bodies. So I changed the Sun to be, I forgot, 300 megatons more mass or something. And Earth turned into a freaking scarred, disgusting, awful, everyone's dead mess.
Whoa. Yeah.
And Mercury burned up entirely. A couple of moons slammed into the planets they were circling.
Wait, what is this?
This is
it's called Universe Simulator 2, I believe, is the name of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do anything from change the axis of the Earth's polar rotation. And then if you do it even just by a little bit, like it completely jacks up the solar system. Like, and it's all based on physics models and that NASA data. And
I still want to try to plow Europa into Mars to see if you can get water back on it.
What's cool is I put a red giant just smack dab next to the sun, and everything just sucked into it and got destroyed immediately. And then one time I blew the sun up and all the planets flew off, into weird trajectories. And if you follow Earth, you can like select it and follow it as it flies off into nowhere. And as it moved, it slowly got all the continents became white with snow and ice. And as further it got out, the more it became just a solid ball of ice.
Oh yeah, Hoth.
That's
how
pretty
Hoth
cool.
happened.
It's really cool to mess with.
But where does the oxygen on Hoth come from? I never understood that.
Here's the deal, Roger. You, according to my Steam, you already own Universe Simulator 2. You could just go in there and go for it.
Yeah, if I had a computer that would run it. Isn't that the irony?
Yep, that is the irony.
Like
that guy in that episode of
Twilight Zone. I have all the time in the world to read my books.
Yep.
Except my non-LensCrafter glasses lens.
Yep.
Crack when I could have got the polycarbonate-based lenses with the shatter shield and UV protection and the high indexing and the glare coating.
That thing always fell flat for me because I just thought he's the last guy in the world. He will eventually find another pair of these. He's going to find another pair somewhere. Somewhere someone else has them. He'll be fine. Other than that, it's a classic.
Goodbye,
ya.
video folks. Have
Bye,
a
video
lovely
folks.
weekend. We'll see you later.